Hello everyone, a very good evening to all of you. So today we are continuing with the Environment and Ecology series, and on the last day of 2021, this is the penultimate lecture of the series. Okay, after this there will be one more lecture tomorrow on the New Year's Day, and that would be the end of the Environment and Ecology series. All right. So today we are looking into some miscellaneous topics, mainly dealing with international organizations and within India also certain organizations and acts, etc., that we haven't covered so far. Okay. So we are clubbing two chapters today, one on organizations and the other one institutions and measures. All right. So tomorrow in the last chapter we will deal with again some of the international treaties like conventions, like Vienna Convention and such, Kigali meet, etc., etc. Okay. So once again, welcome to Madhav Sankar classes. If you are new here, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video and share with your friends. Okay. And yeah, so welcome to the penultimate session. One more class will be there after this, and that would be happening tomorrow. The timing would be somewhere like 5 p.m. Okay, I won't be able to take class tomorrow at 8 p.m. So tomorrow's session will be scheduled at 5 p.m. the last session of this series. Okay, so let's begin today's lecture, institutions and measures. So we are, as I have mentioned already, we are looking at some national and international plans and say organizations, NGOs, etc., that are working into conservation of nature, ecosystem, wildlife, so and so. Starting with National Wildlife Action Plan of India. Okay, so I am pretty sure that you have heard about this. We had briefly looked into this in one of the previous chapters, but in order to refresh your memories and to those who were not there at that time, NWAP was actually adopted in 1983 based on a decision in the 15th meeting of Indian Board for Wildlife in 1982. So this came into existence in 1983. And National Wildlife Action Plan was focusing on the dangers that are about to happen if the country goes on utilizing the natural resources and exploiting the natural resources at that level. The increased use of natural resources, growing population of both human beings and various other species, all were causing huge threat to the world. The earth can only provide so much, correct? So anything that is extra that is being taken from the earth is actually having huge negative impacts on a global level. So National Wildlife Action Plan was launched by the government of India in order to deal with such issues. Biodiversity conservation was the main focus of this area. Okay, conserve the forest, conserve nature, conserve wildlife. And based on this, the National Forest Policy, which we studied yesterday, that was initiated in 1988. Giving primacy to conservation. So National Forest Policy was actually initiated based on the National Wildlife Action Plan, which came into existence earlier, 5 years ago, 1983. And the first National Wildlife Action Plan of 1983 has been revised, and the new one, Wildlife Action Plan 2002-2016, has been adopted. Over the years, there has been plenty of changes in all these things, because obviously nothing can be static as far as these areas are concerned. So over the years, a lot of things has been amended, some things has been taken away, something has been added, something has been changed. Okay, so this plan, this National Wildlife Action Plan, has been the core of biodiversity conservation in India. And there has been some strategies put in place for all this preservation, conservation, etc. And these are as such given in the plan. Okay, basically copy pasted from there. So you can go through that, quickly reading through some of them. Strengthening and enhancing protected area network, effective management of protected areas, conservation of wildlife and endangered species and their habitats, restoration of degraded habitats, and so and so. Basically, any activity for wildlife and nature conservation that has been put as the strategy for NWAP. Okay, integration of National Wildlife Action Plan with other programs, but local community participation, monitoring, research, etc. Okay, next comes National Afforestation and Eco-Development Board. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change constituted this back in 1992. Okay, at that time, it was not Ministry of EFCC because climate change was added later. At that time, it was just simply Ministry of Environment and Forest, and that was it constituted the NAEB in August 1992. So it has been a while ago. And as the name suggests, this looked into certain specific areas promoting afforestation and management strategies through participatory planning process, including local communities, including the local know-how, etc., etc. And for this, Joint Forest Management Action Plan has been taken into consideration. Okay, JFM, Joint Forest Management. We will look into what JFM is in the upcoming slide. At that time, I will explain. But in a layman's perspective, JFM is nothing but a participatory approach in which even the local community is taken into concern for the management and conservation of forests. So micro planning has been put into place for specific areas that are under conservation, and a national afforestation program was launched in 2002 in order to prevent degradation of forests in the country and also in order to cultivate new forests across the country. And this one, National Afforestation Program, is a flagship program of National Afforestation and Eco-Development Board and provides physical and capacity building support to forest development agencies, which are the implementing agencies. So FDAs are the implementing agencies of National Afforestation Program. And this program actually comes under the head of National Afforestation and Eco-Development Board. So this is another initiative by the Government of India in the lines of conserving forests. Okay. Next comes CAMPA, Compensatory Afforestation Fund Management and Planning Authority. Short form CAMPA. Very important. I'm pretty sure you might have. You have heard of this CAMPA. It has been in the news occasionally. Also, in previous years, I have seen some many academies putting more questions regarding CAMPA. So CAMPA is an important topic. So please do study well. In April 2004, central government under the orders of Supreme Court of India constituted this fund, CAMPA. Why? In order to manage money towards compensatory afforestation and other, say, money recoverable in compliance of conditions stipulated by central government and in accordance to the Forest Conservation Act. So we have seen that Supreme Court often comes up with a lot of judgments by itself, and it directs the central government to do a lot of things. Okay, for example, the Good Samaritan law, and such banning public smoking. All this has been, a court-initiated thing. It's something like a judicial activism. Correct. So CAMPA was also constituted by central government on the orders of Supreme Court of India back in April 2004. Okay, so this was actually envisaged by Supreme Court of India even before that, like in 2002. Okay, but it did not get into operation for a very, very, very long time. The bill was actually brought in the parliament in like 2008, but it never, it never became an act. It got lapsed, and that was that. Okay, but later on, it was again brought and it was passed. I will tell you about that story in the upcoming slide. But anyway, since that bill was not passed in the parliament back in 2008, in compliance of the orders of the Supreme Court, these amounts were actually, rather than forming this fund, the amounts were directly sent into state-wise accounts operated by ad hoc authority consisting of 2 officials of Ministry of Environment, 1 representative of Comptroller and Auditor General, and 1 representative of the chairperson of Central Empowered Committee. So rather than forming CAMPA through legislative process, because the bill lapsed at that time, an ad hoc committee has been formed, state-wise, an ad hoc authority, consisting of 2 officials from Ministry of Environment, then a representative from the CAG's office, and a representative from the chairperson of Central Empowered Committee. These were the members of that authority, and the funds were handled by them. Okay. Later on, in 2015, the central government introduced this bill again in Lok Sabha, and this time it was passed. Okay. And then CAMPA came into force. So although the Supreme Court came up with this order back in 2002, CAMPA became a reality only in 2015. So it took a very, very, very long time before it came into force. Okay, so what are these funds used for? As the name suggests, compensatory afforestation, fund management and planning authority. So this deals with compensatory afforestation. You have to plant more trees and convert most of the wastelands into forest lands, and we have to compensate for the huge amount of deforestation that has been happening for a very long time. Correct? You already know the importance of forests. If you have been in my classes throughout the series, I'm pretty sure you have a very good idea why forests are important in a multiple perspective. Okay, so compensatory afforestation has been put into the crux. Net present value of forest, NPV, has been taken into concern. Forests have commercial value also, not just timber, but also the non-forest produce, non-timber producers, such as the minor forest produce, and other, project-specific payments. All these were dealt with this particular fund. The national fund will receive 10% of these funds, and the state funds will receive the remaining 90%. This is the split. 10% for the national fund, 90% for the state fund. Why? Because states are usually the implementing bodies. Okay, so the center mostly deals with the coordination. States are the ones who actually does it, right, in the ground zero. So majority of the fund has been granted to them. The bill also establishes national and state compensatory afforestation fund management and planning authorities to manage national and state funds. So the CAMPA bill comes up with two tiered structure, one at national level and other at the state level. Okay, so this is CAMPA, compensatory afforestation fund management and planning authority. Okay, now JFM, joint forest management. I briefly mentioned what JFM is in a previous slide. So basically, JFM is nothing but a method to institutionalize participatory governance of countries' forest resources by involving local communities. That's it. While we studied about national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, etc., I had briefly mentioned, in many cases, the local communities are also taken into, protectional activities. Correct. I hope you remember regarding, community reserves and, such other things that we studied at that time. So the same idea goes behind this also. Participatory governance of the country's forests with the help of or involving local communities. So this was actually started in consonance with the National Forest Policy 1988, which actually recognized the importance of participation from local communities. And in India, most of the states adopted this policy because it has been very much successful and very much important. So most of the states adopted this one. Forest departments and local communities came to different agreements and formed a committee to manage all these things, by sharing the benefits, costs, etc., etc. NGOs were also brought into action in various fields, including capacity building, information dissemination, monitoring and evaluation, so and so. Okay, and the main thrust or the key area of the JFM was the rehabilitation of degraded forest lands with people's participation involving forest protection committees. Okay, as I have mentioned, there has been huge amounts of deforestation happening during this period. So with the help of these local communities, afforestation activities has been conducted. So the main idea was the rehabilitation of degraded forest lands. All right, so government along with the local communities together joined hands under the JFM or Joint Forest Management. NGOs were also roped in for various other activities. Okay, now social forestry. This is a term that we often see in the newspapers. But what exactly is social forestry, or how did this term come into picture? This term was actually first used in the National Commission on Agriculture, Government of India report. Okay, the National Commission on Agriculture, Government of India, for the first time, they used the term social forestry in the year 1976 in an Indian perspective. Okay, so basically, the idea was to take the pressure off from forests and make use of all the unused and barren and fallow land. Forest has been under huge pressure because forest produces a lot of materials, say all kinds of materials, raw materials, say minor forests produce timber, etc., etc., etc. All these are having huge commercial values. So overexploitation of forests were taking place. Even if overexploitation is not there, still there has been huge pressure on the forest because there is no alternative which gives us all these things. Okay, so social forestry has been designed in order to take the pressure off from the forest by cultivating all these things in fallow lands. Okay, so if if there is a particular area of fallow land or barren land, convert that into forest land also. Plant more trees, make them into forests. Thereby, you can reduce pressure on the existing forests. That was the idea. So mostly trees were planted in and around agricultural fields, railway lines, in the sidelines of railway lines, sidelines of highways, roads, canal banks, etc., etc. In the common community land, government land, panchayat land, wherever it was possible, more and more trees were planted. And it was focusing on the 5 Fs. What are the 5 Fs? Food, fuel wood, fodder, fiber, and fertilizer. Okay, 5 Fs were one of the strong points of social forestry. And focusing on all these things, the government was trying to reduce the existing pressure on the forest land. With the introduction of this scheme, the government formally recognized the local communities' rights to forest resources and encouraged rural participation in the management of natural resources. So we have been seeing this point in many of our previous topics, the participation of local communities. Here also, in social forestry also, that was very, very important. Why? Because if you have to plant trees in and around agricultural fields, then you have to have the farmers on your side. Correct. Similarly, if you are going to plant trees in the roadsides or in parks or community lands, then you need people participation. A government authority by itself cannot conduct such a high scale of operation. So the government did recognize the local community's rights into the forest resources and also encouraged participation in all areas. So social forestry is a very, very broad term. This can be subcategorized into 4: farm forestry, community forestry, extension forestry, and recreational forestry. Everything is self-explanatory. There is no need for more explanation to this. But to summarize it in a single sentence, farm forestry basically deals with planting of trees in and around farmlands. These trees can act as a lot of things. These trees can act as wind barriers, protecting the farm field. These trees can act as shade givers, which is preferable for some kind of plants. Correct. I hope you remember regarding these geophiles and all. Then, these trees can prevent soil erosion. These trees can, convert a wasteland into something more, productive. Correct. So all these are the advantages of farm forestry. Maybe because of New Year, some sort of, firecrackers are going on. Sorry for that. Community forestry. Community forestry is another self-explanatory term. Basically, that deals with. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. Yeah. So, community forestry, it is basically raising of trees in community lands, not just in private lands. Okay, in farm forestry, the land is private. It belongs to the farmer. Correct. In community forestry, the land belongs to the community. It's a public land. That's the difference between farm forestry and community forestry. Extension forestry means nothing. It's basically planting of trees in the railway line sides, road sides, common areas, etc., etc. Recreational forestry, raising trees with the intention of, with a major focus on recreational facilities, say parks, or maybe some kind of other, say tourism areas, etc., etc., for any purpose of recreation. So these are the subcategories of social forestry. Okay, now National Bamboo Mission. National Bamboo Mission is actually a centrally sponsored scheme with 100% contribution from central government. Okay, and it is being implemented by Horticulture Division under Department of Agriculture and Cooperation of the Ministry of Agriculture, New Delhi. Clear? National Bamboo Mission does not come under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It comes under Ministry of Agriculture. Don't forget that. Important. But this one, it was not simply implemented by one particular ministry. This had to rope up other ministries and departments, local community, etc., etc., for its success. Okay, so what could be the main objectives? To promote the growth of bamboo sector, increase the coverage of bamboo cultivation in India, promote marketing of bamboo-based handicrafts. Correct. Establish convergence and synergy among stakeholders and people who are involved in this business, etc., etc. Also, generate employment opportunities for the skilled and unskilled people of India. So these are the main focus of Bamboo Mission, National Bamboo Mission. Say I'm not taking too much time explaining all this because most of the points are very much logical, and even without me explaining, you can understand this. Okay, Compensatory Environmental Pollution Index, or CEPI. So again, as the name suggests, it is an index, which means it is a number. Okay, so CEPI is a rational number to characterize the environmental quality at a given location based on a lot of things. There are a lot of parameters and variables taken into consideration. Say population concentration, impact on human health, level of exposure. Okay, all these are taken into consideration. Pollution of land, air, water, everything. Based on that, an index is created that is scaled from 0 to 100. The higher the number, the worst is the case. So the idea of this index is to act as an early warning tool. Okay, create this index or work out this number for different areas, and based on the final result, take appropriate steps to prevent everything from collapsing. Okay, if the pollution is too much, or if the CEPI value is very high, then government has to take measures to reduce this value. So CEPI, because it looks into a lot of parameters, it can give you more focused data on how can we, get a lower score. How can we reduce this high CEPI value? Okay, so basically, the Central and State Pollution Control Boards, in collaboration with IIT Delhi, applied the CEPI in 88 industrial clusters across the country. Industrial clusters were the primary focus because they are the most polluting areas of the country. Correct. Industrial areas are usually the areas of high pollution. So 88 industrial clusters were focused, and the CEPI was calculated in all these areas. 43 of them brought back a number greater than 70. Out of the 88 surveyed, 43 of them returned a number that was greater than 70, which means it has been very critical. The environment pollution at that area has been so critical, and it had to be brought down. Okay, so it's nothing but an index that will give you a better understanding of the amount of pollution that exists there in that place, and based on that you can work out mitigation measures. Now, lighting a billion lives, label. I'm pretty sure you have heard about this label, LABL mission. I think I have taken this topic some time ago, probably in one of my current affairs quizzes. Okay, I'm not sure, but I think I have briefly taken this topic. Anyway, LABL is nothing but a campaign by TERI and Engineering Research Institute. Okay, so campaign by TERI that promotes the use of solar lanterns specifically designed and manufactured on a decentralized basis. So lighting a billion lives, that itself gives you the idea of what this is. So it's a solar lamp project. campaign undertaken by TERI. Okay, and LABL has been able to engage with government interventions under Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Madhya Pradesh Rural Livelihood Project, Rashtriya Gramin Vikas Nidhi, and has facilitated the spread of mobile telephony with the help of Department of Telecommunications, Government of India. So along with these solar lanterns, they have been also successful in collaborating with all these agencies and departments of governments. And also they were successful in facilitating the spread of mobile telephony with the help of Department of Telecommunications. They were also able to leverage upon corporate social responsibility. You know what CSR is. Correct. Every company, based out of the annual profit that they generate, 2% of the average profit of the past 3 years has to be spent on something socially relevant. That is known as corporate social responsibility. All corporates have to do that. So this one, building, supplying solar lanterns does come as one of the, projects under CSR. So LABL was able to leverage on that, and a lot of companies, a lot of corporates did invest into solar lanterns at that time. Formation of more than 100 women-led self-help groups, strengthening around 150 self-help groups. So this was a very successful campaign and a public, very good example of public-private people partnership. Okay, you have heard about this PPP, correct? So LABL has been a very good example of public-private people partnerships. Okay, EcoMark. EcoMark is something that is very common. Everyone knows what this is. What is this? EcoMark is a government scheme for labeling environment-friendly products to provide accreditation and labeling for household and other consumer products, correct? You know about different quality standards put forth by the BIS and all. So along with that, EcoMark is one such quality rating which provides that product the label of eco-friendly, being environment-friendly. Okay, so this also meets the environment criteria along with the other quality criteria put forth by Bureau of Indian Standards, that is BIS. So EcoMark aims to recognize good environmental performance as well as improvements in performance of unit. Any product which is made, used or disposed of in a way that significantly reduces harm to the environment could be considered as an environment-friendly product. So any product which is made, used or disposed in such a fashion that does not harm or that reduces the harm on environment could be considered as an environment-friendly product. Okay, so EcoMarks are given to all such products which is based, again, nothing but a rating based on how eco-friendly that is. That's it. So the project would help in the capacity building by conducting training, workshops, seminars, conferences, etc., and spreading mass awareness regarding the importance of saving our ecosystem and environment. Urban Services Environmental Rating System users. This is another rating system. This project was funded by United Nations Development Program, executed by Ministry of Environment and Forests, and implemented by TERI. So this is again an analytical tool to measure the performance with respect to the delivery of basic services in local bodies of Delhi and Kanpur. This was a pilot project at that time. Okay, so this was implemented as pilot project in Delhi and Kanpur, focusing on delivery of basic services to the local bodies. Okay, look at the title itself, and Urban Services Environment Rating System. So you have this looks upon the basic services that are provided to these urban areas and considers how eco-friendly they are. Okay, so the performance measurement tool was developed through a set of parameters and indicators, etc., which were benchmarked against set targets using the input-output efficiency outcome framework. This scale was made based on a lot of parameters, not too much important for us. And each of them has its own benchmark, its own targets based on how efficient these services are. And studies were conducted both in Delhi and Kanpur. Biodiversity Conservation and Rural Livelihood Improvement Project, or BCRLIP. Again, very much self-explanatory title. Basically focuses on conserving biodiversity in selected landscapes, including wildlife protected areas, critical conservation areas, etc., with the help of local participation. Okay, so here also, because you are roping in the local communities, JFMs has been brought into action, joint forest management, along with eco development. Okay, so this one intends to expand to other globally significant sites in the country to strengthen linkages between conservation and improving livelihoods of local communities, so and so. This was implemented as a centrally sponsored scheme with 5 financiaries: IDA loan, GEF grant, contributions from Government of India, state governments, and beneficiaries. So 5 different financiers are there into this project, but this was implemented as a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, not too much important, but just in case you can remember at least these basic points. National Clean Energy Fund. I think this is again a very common topic because we have this clean energy cess and all. So I hope you do know about this already. National Clean Energy Fund was constituted in the Public Account of India in the Finance Bill 2010-11. Why? To invest in entrepreneurial ventures and research and innovative projects in the field of clean energy technology. So to look into all these new startups and researchers, innovations, etc., that has been happening in the clean energy sector, renewable energy sector, this fund has been set up. Okay, so the government set up this fund, and the fund is used only into these areas. So the Central Board of Excise and Customs consequently notified Clean Energy Cess in 2010. Okay, what is a cess? You already know what a cess is. It's basically a kind of tax, but the main difference is that the amount collected through the cess can be used only for specific things as for which that cess has been created. That funds cannot be diverted to anything else. Okay, so if you are building something called a clean energy cess, then that fund should be used only for clean energy purposes. It cannot be diverted to some other activities. Okay, that is the advantage of a cess. So Central Board of Excise and Customs basically came up with this clean energy cess in 2010, and under this, producers of specified goods, namely raw coal, raw lignite, and raw peat, were made liable to pay clean energy cess, because these are hugely polluting substances, correct? Coal, lignite, peat, highly pollutant substances. So they were brought under the ambit of clean energy cess. So any project with innovative methods to adopt to clean energy technology and research are eligible for this fund. Any project that relates with clean energy. Okay, so the government assistance under NCEF shall in no case exceed 40% of total project costs. That's also there. Maximum funding for any project from this fund will be 40% of total cost of that project. It cannot be beyond that. Okay, that is National Clean Energy Fund. Indo-French project to study effects of climate change on farming. Not too much important, so I will simply read through this. So Indo-French Center for Promotion of Advanced Research, or CEFI-PRA. This one launched a multidisciplinary Indo-French research project titled Adaptation of Irrigated Agriculture to Climate Change, AICHA. Okay, so basically this aims to develop an integrated model for analyzing the impact of climate on groundwater irrigated agriculture in India. India's agricultural sector is very highly dependent upon irrigation, correct? Because our climate system is monsoonal, which means it's very much seasonal. We have rainy season and we have dry season. So we can't rely on rain alone for success in agriculture. So we need irrigation structures. So this project basically looks to study the impact of climate change on irrigation based agriculture of India. Okay, and the field of study was conducted in the Berambadi village and the surrounding areas in Hangla Hobli in the Gundelpet Taluk in Chamaraja Nagar district. Okay, and it included all kinds of advanced high-tech systems for the study, such as hydrological surveys, economic modeling, agronomical modeling, remote sensing, so and so. All the new technologies were incorporated into this survey and into this study. National Mission for Electric Mobility, NMEM. So, as the name suggests, it was organized to promote electric mobility and manufacturing of electric vehicles in India. Why? Because already, we were congested with other, diesel and petrol vehicles, which were extremely polluting the already polluted atmosphere. Correct. And it was having severe impact on climate change. All the carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases emitted by these, vehicles were, creating huge impact on environment and climate change. On a worldwide perspective also, every developed countries were actually focusing on electric vehicles. They were trying, all of these developed nations are trying to replace these pollutant vehicles with electric vehicles, or say other non-pollutant types of vehicles. So India also, as a step towards that, in order to replace all these petrol and diesel vehicles with electric vehicles, started this mission called National Mission for Electric Mobility. But the problem was, there has been certain barriers. First of all, high cost of electric vehicles. Okay, you can simply Google the cost of an electric vehicle, any company. It is obviously higher than other vehicle, petrol or diesel vehicle. So that was an initial threat. Challenges in battery technology, another issue. Once you charge it, how far will it go? And that battery has to be credible, correct? Think about it, your mobile phone. Once you charge it, how long will it stand? And for mobile phones, you use a lithium ion battery or some lead acid battery or something like that. And how far is it practical on a electric vehicle? How often would you have to charge it? Also, we do not have existing too many charging stations in highways and all. Correct. I mean, we have petrol pumps at some particular distances here and there. So it's possible to have a smooth travel. But we do not have as many electric charging points as that of petrol pumps. Okay, so without having that kind of an infrastructure, it is not easy to change the country into a electric mobility hub. Okay, so these barriers are there in front of government, but even then this mission is still on, and government is doing a lot of steps to change from petrol and diesel vehicles to electric vehicles. Okay, Science Express Biodiversity Special SCBS. This was all over the news. Okay, I mean, I think you have seen this train. This is basically a train which has an exhibition inside its coaches regarding science. That's it. Nothing more than that. Okay, and it would have some specific theme every year. Maybe against pollution, against climate change, again, in favor of clean energy, whatever it is. So this one started like back in 2012, and this train would run throughout India from 5th of June to 22nd of December, 180 days. Starts on the World Environment Day and goes all the way to 22nd of December. It is a 16-coach air-conditioned train. Basically, it looks into all these areas such as creating mass awareness on biodiversity, climate change, water and energy conservation, etc., etc., etc. This is a collaborative effort of Department of Science and Technology and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Okay, I think you have seen this train. Otherwise, you can Google some images. It's really cool. You can search it. Okay, these are some of the initiatives of government in spreading mass awareness, especially focusing on children. Okay, school students, college students, so on. Environment Education Awareness and Training, or EEAT. Okay, EEAT scheme. This is a central scheme launched during the 6th 5-year plan back in 1983-84 period. with the following objectives. These objectives are as such given in the in the scheme statement. So basically, it's going through some of them. To promote environment awareness among all sections of the society, spread environment education specifically in non-formal system, facilitate development of education, training materials and aids in the formal education sector, promote environment education through existing educational or scientific institutions. Basically, it's nothing but spreading environmental awareness, education and training. That's it. With that, try to mobilize people's participation in preservation and conservation of environment. That's the only agenda under this scheme. National Environment Awareness Campaign, NEAC. NEAC is again a very important topic. National Environment Awareness Campaign. This was launched some time ago, back in 1986. Same idea, try to create environmental awareness. For this purpose, multimedia campaigns has been organized. It utilizes both conventional and non-conventional methods in communication and disseminating information regarding environment. So for this purpose, very nominal funding has been given to NGOs, government departments, schools, colleges, universities. Okay, they were all given very nominal funding for conducting some activities that raises awareness in the area of environment. It can be, drama, say folk dance, or say seminars, workshops, whatever. So through some means, try to generate awareness regarding environment and the need for conservation and protection of these environmental systems. Okay, that is regarding NEAC. Eco clubs or the National Green Corps. Like the NCC, we have this NGC. This is again a very popular topic, eco clubs or the National Green Corps. Again, the idea is to educate children about the immediate environment and impart knowledge about ecosystems, thereby mobilizing youngsters and instilling them in the spirit of scientific inquiry into environmental problems and involving them in the efforts of environmental preservation. So this instilling of the spirit of scientific inquiry, it's there in the directive principles of state policy, correct? In the constitution itself, that point is there. So eco clubs basically works in tandem with that. Global learning and observations to benefit the environment, or the GLOBE program. So International Science and Education Program, this is the coordinating agency. This is an umbrella agency. So this one stresses on hands-on participatory approach. And India joined a participatory approach in conserving environment. So India joined this program back in 2000, August 2000. And this sub-program, GLOBE, unites students, teachers, and scientists all over the world and bring in hands-on approach, participatory approach in conserving our ecosystems. And this is specifically targeted to school children. Okay, so the students of the GLOBE schools are required to collect data about various basic environmental parameters under the guidance of a GLOBE trained teacher and use it to explain hypotheses as well as to enhance their scientific understanding of Earth. That's it. Basically, these are targeted to school children. So with the help of a GLOBE trained faculty, these children are supposed to collect information and data on various parameters of the environment and use that data to enhance their scientific understanding or explain some hypotheses or to do anything that deals with environment, increasing environmental awareness and protecting and conserving our ecosystems. Okay, mangroves for the future. So again, what are mangroves? We have looked into lots of agencies and organizations that deals with mangroves. We have covered this topic extensively. This is one such organization, Mangroves for the Future. Okay, basically it is a partnership-based initiative promoting investment in coastal ecosystems for sustainable development. Mangroves are seen in the coastal area. So this is a partnership-based initiative with lots of countries for protecting coastal ecosystems in a sustainable manner. India is one of the member countries. Okay, member countries include India, Indonesia, Maldives, Pakistan, Seychelles, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam. India and the Southeast Asian countries also. There are some outreach countries like Bangladesh, Cambodia, Myanmar, Timor-Leste. Dialogue countries include Kenya, Malaysia, Tanzania. Some African countries are also roped in. So, as the name suggests, MFF provides a collaborative platform to help countries, sectors, and agencies in the MFF region to tackle the growing challenges to coastal sustainability. Okay, so this is adopted. MFF has adopted this mangroves as its flagship ecosystem, especially considering the important role played by mangrove forests back in the 2004 tsunami. In lots of areas, these mangrove forests were very much successful in preventing, the extensive damage that would otherwise have been caused by the tsunami waves. Okay, so MFF basically focuses on protecting the mangrove ecosystem. Clear? But that does not mean MFF focuses only on mangrove ecosystem, because it also looks into other coastal ecosystems, including coral reefs, estuaries, lagoons, wetlands, beaches, seagrass beds, etc. etc. Okay, so that is the first topic. Second topic, major topic for the day is organizations. Very small topic. So I will take this also. We will round up in 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. Animal Welfare Board of India. Very, very important. Animal Welfare Board of India. Again, very much seen in the news. So what kind of a organization is Animal Welfare Board of India? It is a statutory advisory body. Okay, it's not a constitutional body. It's not a non-statutory body. It has been established through law. So it is a statutory advisory body on animal welfare laws. So basically, as the name suggests, it looks into animal welfare. It promotes animal welfare in the country. And this has been the first of its kind initiated by any government across the world. India was the first country to set up anything like this. And this was set up back in 1962 in accordance with the very famous PCA passed in 1960. Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. A very significant landmark achievement in India's wildlife conservation. And as per the section 4 of this act, this particular board was formed. And the pioneer in this area was Srimati Rukmini Devi Arunthale. Okay, and this was headquartered in Chennai, and actually Srimati Arunthale was, up till her demise, she was the main head of this agency. She was the main functionary of this agency. So what would have been the agenda of this agency? As the name suggests, against prevention of cruelty to animals. So basically, this one advises the central government on making different rules and acts, etc., to prevent unnecessary pain or suffering to animals in general, and particularly when they are being transported from one place to another, or when they are kept in captivity or confinement. Okay, prevent unnecessary pain to animals. So you know how slaughterhouses and all work. Okay, I mean, all these non-vegetarian foods that you actually consume, this is obtained by killing animals, correct? So since we can't put a blanket ban on non-vegetarianism, you have animals would be killed anyway, but try to reduce the pain that these animals have to go through. That is the idea. Okay, so whatever it is, I'm not just this was one example. Another example would be, say, using animals as performance animals, like in circus and all. There also do not harm animals at all, and try to prevent any sort of cruelty that is happening to them. Okay, that is the major idea. So in that perspective, advise the government to come up with laws and regulations, etc., etc. That is what Animal Welfare Board of India does. Also, it ropes up activities such as conservation of sheds, water troughs, and also provide veterinary services for other animals which are in need for that. Okay, it also takes all such steps that board might think fit to ensure the unwanted animals are destroyed by local authorities whenever it is necessary to do so, either instantaneously or after being rendered insensible to pain or suffering. There is also this case. In certain cases, local authorities are forced to kill some animals. Correct. We have seen this, when bird flus and such things occur, swine flu, bird flu, these things occur. Lots of birds and animals are, killed in or massacred in order to prevent this from spreading to too many areas. I mean, the intention is good to prevent this disease from spreading, but even then, a lot of animals and birds are being killed. So in such cases, even when the authorities are basically forced to do so, try to make sure that the animal does not go through too much pain or suffering. Okay, so laws has to be made in that regard. That is the main agenda of Animal Welfare Board of India. And this board actually consists of 28 members, and the term of office for these members is a period of 3 years. Okay, now Central Zoo Authority. So what could be the activities of Central Zoo Authority? Basically looks into the zoos. Correct, we have plenty of zoos all across India. So Central Zoo Authority is the apex agency that deals with zoos. So this was again brought into action by an amendment that was made in the Wildlife Protection Act 1991, which added a new chapter dealing with zoos. Okay, so based on that amendment, the central government constituted the Central Zoo Authority, and according to the provisions, only such zoos which were operated in accordance with the norms and standards prescribed by the Central Zoo Authority would get the recognition to operate by this authority. If you want to operate a zoo, then you need permission or recognition from the Central Zoo Authority. And if you want that recognition, then that zoo must be in tandem with a certain set of criteria that are set up by Central Zoo Authority. Okay, then what are the main functions? Specify the minimum standards for housing, upkeep, and veterinary care. Evaluate and assess functioning of zoos with respect to the standards. Recognize and derecognize zoos. Identify endangered species of wildlife for the purposes of captive breeding. To coordinate the acquisition, exchange, and loaning of animals for breeding purposes. Ensure maintenance of stud books, endangered species of wild animals bred in captivity, so and so. Maintenance of stud books for endangered species, something like the IUCN Red Data book. Keep a record of the endangered and vulnerable species and make efforts to conserve them. That's all. So these are the targets of Central Zoo Authority, and it functions. Main function is the recognition and derecognition of zoos all across the country. It also looks into identifying priorities and themes with regard to display of captive animals in zoo. You know how animals are displayed, correct? Some of the animals are actually kept in cages. Some in early days, very early days, all the animals were kept in cages made of iron bars and all. But nowadays, when you go to zoo, you can see that instead of cages, animals are given a larger space, which is very much designed resembling their natural habitat. Correct. You can see animals in some sort of a artificial habitat which resembles their natural habitat, rather than cages made of iron bars. Correct. So that is all. That all this has been based on the directions of Central Zoo Authority. Okay. It also tried to coordinate training of zoo personnel in India and abroad, coordinate research and etc. in captive breeding, etc. etc. So the main powers includes recognition of zoos, permission for acquisition of wild or captive animals, cognizance of offences, granting licenses, certificate of ownership, recognition, so on. So in almost anything and everything that deals with zoos goes through Central Zoo Authority. National Biodiversity Authority, or NBA, Chennai. So again, as the name suggests, this was established to implement India's Biological Diversity Act 2002. Okay, the National Biodiversity Authority. So obviously, as per the Biological Diversity Act of 2002, established in 2003, next year. This is a statutory body, autonomous body, and it performs facilitative, regulatory, and advisory functions to the Government of India in the areas of conservation, sustainable use of biological resources, fair and equitable sharing of benefits. Very important point. Fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the use of biological resources, so and so. Okay, so anybody seeking any kind of intellectual property rights on a research based upon biological resource or knowledge obtained from India has to obtain prior approval of NBA. So whatever agency that is, whoever it is, if they are, if they want to claim IPR rights over their research, which was actually based upon resources from India, then they have to have prior approval from NBA. Clear? Similarly, for ensuring equitable sharing and benefits arising from the use of biological resources and associated knowledge, Section 19 and 21 stipulate prior approval of National Biodiversity Authority before their access. This is a main point. This is a very important point. Fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the use of biological resources. This prevents big corporates and other such agencies from monopolizing this sector. Okay, fair and equitable sharing. Nature is for everybody. Biodiversity is for all. Okay, so that decentralized or that generous attitude is taken by this body to conserve our biodiversity. Also, it ensures protection to the knowledge of local people relating to biodiversity through measures such as registration of such knowledge. We have briefly mentioned this point once before. There are some traditional knowledge which are passed down the communities, especially in tribal areas and all. That may not be known to the mainstream world, but there are such traditional knowledges passed through families. Okay, so this board also looks into registering these, tabulating these knowledge so that it will not get lost forever. Okay, so these are the activities of National Biodiversity Authority, which is based on Chennai. Then, like the national board, we have state boards also, and we have local level bodies also. Same, equivalent of national level body works in the state level and local level. That's all. Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. We have only a couple more slides. Okay, we will end it in 2-3 minutes. Wildlife Control Bureau, WCCB. Again, a body that was established through law, which means it is a statutory body, came into existence in 2007 by amending the Wildlife Act of 1972. So, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, what could be the functions? Most of them we can guess, we can write it on our own, but these are the functions as given in the Wildlife Control Bureau website. Basically copy pasted. So I will read through this. Collection, collation of intelligence and its dissemination and establishment of a centralized wildlife crime data bank. Basically collecting data, organizing it and disseminating information regarding all kind of wildlife crime that has been happening across the country. Coordination of actions by various enforcement authorities towards the implementation of the provisions of this act. Implementations of obligations under various international conventions and protocols. Yes, there are plenty of conventions internationally that deals with preventing wildlife crime. So India is also signatories to a lot of them. So India's part is done by Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. Okay, assistance to concerned authorities in foreign countries and concerned international organizations to facilitate coordination and universal action for wildlife crime control. Yeah, we have heard about instances where illegal trade of animals and animal trophies has been happening. Correct. Say for example the horns of rhinoceros, elephant tusks, ivory. Okay, these are some of the most important, most common things that are traded illegally in an international sphere. Shark fins, etc., etc. Okay, so Wildlife Crime Control Bureau looks into all these things and try to coordinate with all international and other national agencies to prevent any kind of crimes in the wildlife sector. All right, National Lake Conservation Plan. National Lake Conservation Plan is basically implemented by Ministry of Forests and Environment, Forests and Climate Change. It has been there since 2001. So what could be the aim here? To conserve and manage polluted lakes. That's it. Especially in urban and semi-urban areas. The thrust is given to urban and semi-urban areas because this is where most pollution happens. It's not in the rural areas where water bodies get polluted mainly. It's mostly in urban and semi-urban areas, correct? So the focus is given to these areas. Restore and conserve the urban and semi-urban areas, lakes of the country, degraded due to the wastewater discharge into the lake, and other unique freshwater ecosystems through an integrated ecosystem approach. How to do this? Prevention of pollution from point sources by intercepting, diverting, and treating the pollution load entering the lake. You know what point sources of pollution are. So there are point sources and there are non-point sources. So trying to prevent all this garbage being dumped directly into the water body and thereby conserving and protecting the aquatic ecosystem. Okay, National Ganga River Basin Authority. We already looked into this in a previous chapter. We studied about Namami Gange program and all. I hope you remember. Okay, so what is NGRBA? This was constituted in 2009 under the Environment Protection Act of 1986. So this deals with a very lot of things, planning, financing, monitoring, coordinating, everything. Anything that deals with protecting the river Ganges. Okay, you know about the Namami Gange program and the River Ganga, the various agencies that work on the river Ganges for its protection. So this one is much of a comprehensive strategy, an authority that deals with river Ganga in a comprehensive fashion. It does not just focus on protecting that one river, it focuses on the entire basin. Okay, development of the river basin management plan. That the Indo-Gangetic basin is there. Correct. So that entire Gangetic basin is the focus of this particular authority. Regulation of activities aimed at prevention, control, and abatement of pollution of Ganga. Maintenance of minimum ecological flow of river Ganges. Collection, analysis, and dissemination of information relating to environmental pollution in Ganges. Promotion of water conservation practices. Also, it issues directions under Section 5 of Environmental Protection Act for the purposes of exercising and performing these functions and for achievement of its objectives. So this program, although it only deals with one particular river and its basin, it has a very wider and a very comprehensive structure, and it is empowered through the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, which grants it a wide variety of power in protecting the Ganges ecosystem. Okay, last one, Wildlife Trust of India. WTI is actually an NGO. It's not a government agency. It is an NGO founded in 1998. And it conserves nature and specifically endangered species and threatened habitats with the help of communities and governments. Okay, it is also committed to protection of India's wildlife by working in partnership with local communities and governments on a range of projects from species rehabilitation to prevention of illegal wildlife trade. So it's a very broad area. It works in a very broad area. Wildlife Trust of India deals with the main aim of conserving and protecting wildlife, prevention of illegal trade, rehabilitation in cases where it needs it. It doesn't just focus on animals, it also focuses on protecting the habitat as such. Okay, so, and yeah, it is an NGO. It's a non-governmental organization. So it's not any agency that we have seen so far. So that's it about WTI, and that is also it regarding today's session. So in today's session, to summarize, we looked into some organizations both at national and international levels, mainly at national levels, and some plans and boards created by Government of India in conserving and protecting our wildlife, our environment, etc., etc. Okay, so all of them are not equally important, but it's very good to have a broad idea of what these agencies are, which ministry is dealing with that. Okay, which are the concerned stakeholders in all these agencies, how does it work? All right, and append this with your current affairs reading. That is also very important. These are not an exhaustive list. Plenty of NGOs are there that works in this space. Plenty of other governmental agencies are also there. There are some specific state programs that are reasonably good and very much famous for their conservation activities. Okay, so please do look into all that. All that comes in the current affairs section. please add that to your static knowledge that I have put in this class, so that you will get a very good idea of all these areas. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of today's session. Tomorrow would be the last and final session of Environment and Ecology and this series as such. I won't be taking classes for some time after that. It's time for your revisions and all. It's January. The exam is on June. Okay, so you can go back to your own studies, your own revisions, your own pace, your own plan and strategy. So please make sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video and share it with your friends. I wish you all a very happy new year in advance. I will wish it again tomorrow. So until tomorrow, this is goodbye and good night.